Tantor Audio presents The Divinity of Dogs, True Stories of Miracles Inspired by Man's Best Friend, by Jennifer Skiff. Narrated by Laural Merlington and Danny Campbell. Introduction. Divine. 1. Relating to or being directly from God. 2. Having godlike nature. 3. Lovely. This book was difficult to write. It's a memoir and a book of other people's experiences. Documenting the trials of people and how dogs have helped them through those trials has been a privilege. But reliving my own difficulties was humbling, at times disturbing, and often sad as I forced myself to remember the time so many beautiful souls have helped me through the challenges of my life. I've shed many tears while writing this book. I believe life is a journey, and that we're here to learn and grow spiritually. I also believe dogs are a gift from the divine, sent here to help us on our way. The Divinity of Dogs is about people's moments of enlightenment with dogs. It includes stories in which love, tolerance, comfort, compassion, loyalty, joyfulness, and even death have provided inspirational lessons about life from experiences with dogs. Whether you believe dogs are divine or a gift from the divine, the Divinity of Dogs gives you permission to accept what you know. Dogs provide us with a clear example of all that is good. They are healers, educators, protectors, and tangible examples of divine love. For those of you who agree with this philosophy, this book confirms all we know and puts an exclamation point on it. It wasn't until I edited my first book, God Stories, and received thousands of stories about people's connection with the divine, that I realized my personal experience with dogs was shared with countless others. People wrote and told me about the private moments that changed their lives. Their stories were profound and amazing, the type that warm your heart and make you cry out loud. They catapulted me into other people's trials, leaving me with a sense of appreciation for all I have. I decided these were stories that needed to be told, to document the divinity of dogs, and to give us a library of inspiring life lessons. Writing the divinity of dogs for me was also very personal. My dogs have gently guided me through life. As a child, when I was fearful and sad, my golden retriever, Sally, was my strength and savior. Later in life, when I was recovering from a tumor in my bone marrow, Falafel, a mix of terrier and poodle, and Nicky, a Basenji lab cross, would jump on me until I got out of bed each day. Nicky's separation anxiety and the destructive behavior that came with it gave me a lesson in patience, while Mary the Spitz calmed my storms and taught me how to love. Clara the Boxer was my first friend, and Clemmy the Cockapoo my first rescue. Chickpea, my one-eyed Shih Tzu, has been the child I never had, while Couscous, the Maltese Pomeranian, has licked me awake with love and questionable breath every morning. When at times I didn't want to go on any longer, my love for dogs kept me here. My dogs have been the reason I have woken up every single day of my life with a smile on my face. They have protected me from mean people and have given me insight into potential partners. They have been my children and my parents. They have loved me the most. I am among the ranks of millions of people who appreciate the souls of dogs and know they are a gift of pure love and an example of all that is good. More than anything, they have taught me how to be a better person. I'm not alone. The world is filled with people who have reached the same conclusion and are happy to share why. Scott Thornsley thought his life was over. He lost his job of 19 years, and his wife left him. He felt no one loved or wanted him. He decided to kill himself. At the very moment he chose to act on his decision, his Rottweiler, Emma, ran into the room, grabbed his hand ferociously, and pulled him to the front door. What happened next, in the darkest moment of his life, saved him. Joy Peterkin lost her home and belongings in Hurricane Katrina, but she still had her Chihuahua, Little Bit. Just as Joy was finding some normalcy in her life, Little Bit began persistently nudging a spot on her breast. In this book, we find out what Little Bit knew that doctors didn't. Maisie the lab was on death row at a shelter. She was rescued by a prison canine training program and then by a service dog charity. Frida Powell was in her own battle with life. She was a deaf parent with autistic twin boys and was trying to survive the loss of her oldest son in a heartbreaking tragedy. The last thing Frida wanted was a dog, until Maisie came and rescued her entire family. Alyssa Dennis was in her early 20s when she was diagnosed with severe systemic lupus. She was a shut-in, confined to her bed, in pain, and living alone. Doctors told her she wouldn't live past the age of 25. That's when she applied for a service dog. In this book, you learn how Luna the Labrador gave Alyssa a reason to get up and live the life she was told she'd never have. In 1956 and 1957, a number of teenagers in Chicago were brutally murdered by a suspected serial killer. Gloria Wardrum was 19 and worked during the day. The only time she could walk her always friendly Airedale Terrier, Ginger, was in the evening. One afternoon at dusk, while playing with Ginger in a park, Gloria fell asleep against a tree. She abruptly awoke to Ginger's fierce growls as the dog tugged at her leash, trying to get to a man who was approaching. The man was twisting a rope between his hands as he got closer. What happened next proved to Gloria the divinity of dogs. Miracles associated with dogs have been documented throughout history and are one of the reasons people have always felt a heavenly connection to them. Thousands of years ago, in Mesopotamia, a land that is now Iraq, followers of Gula, the goddess of healing, actually called the dog the divinity. Egyptians had dog gods and were often buried with dogs to guide and protect them in the afterlife. Aboriginal people on every continent have connected dogs to holy places. Tribes, religions, and societies throughout time have considered the dog a god. What's amazing is that before there were easy means of long-distance communication, people in separate parts of the world felt the same way about dogs. Jesus Christ, one of the most influential people in history, asked people to strive for certain character qualities for which dogs are well known: joyfulness, generosity, love, sensitivity, compassion, tolerance, contentment, forgiveness, loyalty, patience, gratefulness, enthusiasm, and dependability. Who do you know in your house who possesses these qualities at all times? In my house, it's hard to admit, but it's true, the only selfless love comes from the dogs. Recently, torn between being with my husband in Australia and rushing to the side of my dying dog Couscous in the United States, things got heated. I turned to my husband and said, "I love her more than I love you. She's my baby. Your love has conditions. Hers doesn't." He smiled and then laughed. What a great guy. I got on the next plane. Couscous lived. How can a dog possess all the character traits we strive for but can never completely achieve? Are their dispositions divine? Or are dogs actually gifts from the divine? The stories in this book provide some of the answers to those questions. Today, published medical research confirms that people with dogs have reduced stress, lower blood pressure, less heart disease, and they suffer from lower rates of depression than people who don't have dogs. These days, we have therapy dogs who visit hospitals and nursing homes, guide dogs who protect, sniffer dogs who rescue, police dogs who serve, and dogs who doctors agree can reach a sick child when medicine and other people can't. I am a person who has received the gift of emotional healing from a dog. When I was 7 years old, a retriever named Sally was my best friend, confidant, and constant companion. She enthusiastically watched as I danced and sang along to David Cassidy records and rejoiced in our walks along the rocky coastline of Maine. we lived a happy life. A few years later, my parents' marriage ended, and I moved into a house with a cruel and inhumane stepfather. My world rocked as I became a victim and lived a fearful existence. My only constant was Sally. I was no longer permitted to sleep with her, but when I could, I'd sneak outdoors to the kennel and lie with her on the concrete, the only place where all was warm, loving, and safe. Many people share similar stories. The solace we get from dogs is like a warm blanket of love engulfing us, no matter our worries. This book is a glimpse into the lives of people who have been inspired by a dog. Many of the dogs in this book are rescues. That means they were given up, abandoned, confiscated for cruelty, or lost and ended up at a shelter. Many were scheduled to die and were rescued at the last minute. If you allow yourself to become immersed in each story and its message, I promise you the clouds in your own sky will dissipate as you realize all you have and how simple it is to live your life joyfully. As much as we look up at the stars and know there is more than life on earth, the divinity of dogs is just as unexplainable and profound. They may be the purest example of divine love in an earthly soul many of us ever experience. If we take their lead, open our hearts, and embrace their love, we may just find our own journey a lot more enlightening. Love. Embracing the gift. Shortly after I began searching for stories for this book, I received an email from the director of the Israeli Guide Dog Center for the Blind. He asked me if I knew the Hebrew name for dog and what it meant. I did not. The name, he said, is Kelev, and means full of heart. Talk about a revelation. It was as if someone had handed me the lost key to my personal safe, the place where I held my opinions about dogs locked up for fear of being criticized for them. This ancient translation suggested to me that people understood the gift of dogs more than 3,000 years ago. Many millions of people before us had acknowledged that a dog is full of heart, the organ that sustains us and is associated with love. For me, the knowledge started at birth with a boxer named Clara, whom I called Bookie. I am the eldest of 6 children, and for the first 2 years of my life I was an only child. But I wasn't alone. Many of my baby pictures show the head of a chubby infant attached to the cheek of a tan-colored boxer with pointed ears and a black snout. I can't tell you much about my life with Bookie, other than that we were inseparable, and when I was 7 she died. What I can tell you with certainty is that I've always missed her. 33 years after she passed, my father walked into my kitchen for his morning coffee, waving a video. He said he'd found an old reel of black and white film in the attic and had converted it to tape for my 40th birthday. As I sat down with him, I could barely contain my excitement. My parents had been divorced for nearly 30 years. I remembered little of my early childhood in Hyannis, Massachusetts. My mother's recollections of her life with my father had left me disheartened. She had given me the impression that, for her, it had been time to get married, and that there had been little love in their years together. I turned on the video, and as I watched, tears welled in my eyes. It was winter. There were 2 young people having a snowball fight. They were playful and affectionate. There was a lot of laughter. There was a baby, bundled in blankets, nestled in a silver flexible flyer snow saucer. The baby was pushed down a snowbank, and her dog ran alongside. The seasons changed, and it was summer. There was a picnic by the ocean. The child was now sitting up. She was on a blanket with her dog, and they were leaning against each other, both smiling. Someone threw the dog a stick, and she chased it, plunging into the water, grabbing it in her mouth and bringing it back to the child, causing a series of excited giggles. The 2 parents were clearly delighted with their accomplishment, and each other. There had been love after all, a lot of it. My parents had adored each other and me. I had also known the divinity of a dog whose pure love had come without conditions and had been carried in my heart throughout my life. Bookie had instilled in me an important lesson. Love between people often changes and ends, but you can always count on the unwavering love of a dog. Bookie marked the beginning of my journey with dogs.
I Had No Reason to Live, by Scott Thornsley. It was Christmas morning, 1995. My wife had left me in August, and 2 weeks later I lost my job of 19 years. I was alone, without anyone to turn to. Worst of all, no one needed me anymore, my workplace or the wife I loved. I'd just gotten my Ph.D. and was looking forward to enjoying the success that would come with it. Instead, the hunt for a new job was futile. Because of my new degree, I couldn't get the most menial of jobs. Most people said I was overeducated. I felt like a total failure. I thought long and hard and came to the conclusion that my life was not worth living. I decided to commit suicide. The moment came. I decided on a method and was committed to carrying it out. At that very moment, my 4-year-old Rottweiler, Emma, bounded into the study. Her leash was in her mouth, which was not unusual. What was unusual was what she did next. She grabbed my hand with her mouth and ferociously pulled me toward the front door, tugging and yanking me out of my chair. She had never done this before. There was a hard falling snow, which would make even the shortest of walks difficult. Her tugging continued. I decided to grant her one more walk. Once we were outside, she wouldn't let me go home. She continued just ahead, leading me through neighborhoods and school athletic fields. Emma wandered without direction, refusing to let me turn around. A couple of hours passed, and during that time, my mind cleared, and I realized my life was not over. I had much to be thankful for, and someone really did need me, even if it was a female Rottweiler named Emma. There is no doubt in my mind that Emma saved my life that day. In the darkest of moments, a dog can make your life worth living.
The Secret Magic Entrusted to Dogs, by Camille Boisvert. The ability to love may be easily extinguished by the harshness of the world. Like overused elastic, a hardened heart seems impossible to flex and reshape ever again. No gesture of kindness or promise of sincerity can be trusted by an injured soul. People around the world make their way each day through all that life brings, good, bad, and terribly bad, with a knowing attitude of defeat. Many do not know about the secret magic entrusted to dogs. This is the story of Molly B., a chocolate Labrador retriever with golden eyes, and me, when I was a 39-year-old woman with a closed heart. We were brought together one snowy white day just before Christmas in 1994. As a gift to my life partner, Denise, we drove to a breeder and bought the plumpest, squiggliest lab pup in the litter. Denise already knew the secret about dogs, which is learned by experience, and always had at least one dog in her life. I, on the other hand, didn't know much about dogs and, to be truthful, was easily irritated by them. I went along with having dogs to keep Denise happy because I loved her. Love can be divided into two categories, guarded and unguarded. Guarded love keeps you safe, so that only small amounts of pain and disappointment can leak into your heart and soul. It is sensible and responsible. Unguarded love is risky and can bring unbearable pain. Molly cried enough the first night that we gave in and let her sleep on the bed with us. A few nights later, we woke to a strange moaning. Molly's jaw was clenched, and her legs and claws were extended. Her body was rigid. The doctor told us Molly was epileptic and would have periodic seizures for the rest of her life. He said that someday Molly would have to take daily medicine to control the seizures, but for the first year or so she could live without medication. He told us we would have to watch Molly carefully to prevent her from falling downstairs or receiving other injuries during a seizure. This was when I started to sincerely care about the welfare of our dog. Every morning I'd read the newspaper and drink hot coffee for 30 minutes in the sunroom before starting my day. One morning Molly came and lay next to me with her nose on my feet. She didn't move until I got up. It was adorable and made me feel special, but I didn't think much of it otherwise. The next day, Molly did the same thing, and then every day after that. To my surprise, Denise told me that Molly had bonded with me. Somehow this little pup had gotten close to me without me being able to control it. It made me feel important and necessary to the life of the little lab, and I felt responsible for keeping her safe and happy. More and more, I wanted to look after Molly and protect her from danger and keep her happy by playing ball and taking walks. The bond between us grew stronger every day, which made me hesitate occasionally. But the love I was feeling for Molly was too great to stop. Each and every little curiosity in life was a novelty to Molly. There was incredible joy in witnessing her growth and development. Her seizures continued, and I was always quick to take over the care of our sick little dog. The more seizures Molly had, the more guarding I was over her welfare, instead of being guarded in the amount of love I let in or out. We were hopeful the seizures would remain minor and we wouldn't have to medicate Molly. But one night when Molly was an adult, she had a seizure that wouldn't stop. We had to carry her into the truck and drive her to the emergency clinic. All the while Molly remained rigid, grunting and moaning, with her claws extended. The doctor administered a Valium drip, and the seizure went away. But that night, everything changed. There are large and small dramas that play out in the lives of us all every day. Sometimes we take them in stride, and sometimes we fall down. It's a time to think about what's really happening, and to remember that our reaction usually affects the people, or in this case the dog, around us. I was inclined to think only about how the world was affecting me, and would forget about the people around me. The dramas would become inflated, and sometimes I'd act irrationally. But this was different. All I cared about was Molly's health. The doctor said Molly would have to take phenobarbital every day for the rest of her life, and that it would eventually result in liver failure. It would be unavoidable and final. The next morning we began putting the pill in Molly's food. It became routine and was a daily reminder that Molly would have a short life. There were more seizures, but nothing life-threatening. I kept Molly from harm whenever possible, and realized that as I cared for her, I felt unconditional love. It was a new and foreign feeling to me, one that needed consideration. Believe it or not, I actually took the time to decide to allow myself to give unconditional love and to receive it from this 80-pound, bounding, bouncing network of muscle, fur, and teeth. Why? Why on earth would just a dog be the one to allow me to finally release this unreasonable fear of loving? The reason is that it was not possible for Molly to give conditional love. The more love I gave my dog, the more love I got back. It was as simple as that. Eventually, after 10 great years of living with us, Molly became sick from the medicine. There were several episodes of running to the emergency room, and then one day I saw that Molly's brown tail was turning yellow. I knew it was time. It was the most gut-wrenching moment of my life, making the decision to let her go. To drive Molly to the vet's office, witness the administering of the euthanasia, and hold her while she passed away was like throwing innocence off a cliff, because God said it must be done. When I got home after leaving Molly to be cremated, I took a walk by myself in the woods. The taking of life in any form was unacceptable to me. This process of letting go of a beloved pet was such a violation to my own philosophy that I felt transported to some alternative universe where love and loss were vines that intertwined and wound around inside my every bone and vein. The vines pulled tighter and tighter, and my breathing became staggered as tears flooded down my cheeks and onto my clothes. A force welled up from my gut and came screaming out of my mouth. An unsolicited moaning scream came out, and I held it until I couldn't breathe. Then I sat down and just cried my heart out. It was a manifestation of grief, the monster that I feared before I'd learned to love. There in the woods, I looked at grief, and I looked at love, the intertwined vines of life. I thought about life without Molly, life without unconditional love, and made a decision. Molly's legacy for me would be to live my life with the courage to love. The secret magic entrusted to dogs is that they will show you how to love. All you have to do is give them unconditional love. If you can do that, you will learn to love the world around you, and you must not care if it loves you back. Just know that if a waterfall of love pours from you, all creatures that pass through will pause to take in the moment, however brief, of relief from the harshness of the world. My husband and I were never able to have children. By Connie Bandy. My husband and I were never able to have children. After in vitro fertilization, 2 miscarriages, and an adoption that fell through, we decided it wasn't meant to be. So we got a little Shih Tzu dog named Cooper, until we could figure out what our next step would be. Cooper was a blessing. Being naturally cute and fluffy, he immediately formed bonds with the children in our neighborhood. He became such a hit that kids would come over and knock on the door to see if Cooper could play with them. After he received the title of neighborhood dog, I realized Cooper had a unique ability to bond with children. I enrolled Cooper in several obedience programs, and he became certified as a therapy dog. It was through the therapy dog classes that I was introduced to a woman named Diane Smith and her reading program called Roxy Reading. Diane started the program after she discovered that children's reading skills improved significantly when they read aloud to her dog, Roxy. Teachers applauded the program when they saw its effects, noting significant improvement with the kids right off the bat. Introverted and shy children suddenly perked up when they read to Roxy. When I heard about the program, I instantly knew it was where Cooper and I belonged. My aha moment happened after a Roxy reading session. I had been very angry and depressed about not being able to conceive. We had been visiting a 3rd-grade class of 7- and 8-year-olds. The kids were sitting in a circle and, one by one, took turns reading to Cooper. The child who was reading was able to stroke and get kisses from Cooper as he read. I noticed the kids were getting more proficient with their reading skills since working with Cooper. I loved seeing the progress. The kids loved the reading, and Cooper loved being there. After the session, I got back into the car with Cooper and was feeling pretty good about the hour. I thought back on how he had made everyone laugh and how much pleasure he brought the children. I looked over at him, sitting in the passenger seat, and was filled with an incredible sense of joy and love for my little dog. At that moment, I realized I didn't have to have my own child to make a difference in a child's life. Together, Cooper and I were making a difference in young people's lives. We were helping them learn to read and were encouraging a lifelong love of reading. I'm at peace now. Cooper truly is an angel in the form of a dog. Because of him, I'm surrounded by children all the time. God works in mysterious ways. Through Cooper, I've come to learn that disappointments make way for other areas of love and growth to come into our lives.
Oh, yes, you loved him. By Jeremy Ashton. In my mid-40s, I was feeling the hitherto unfelt, painful emotions of a lost childhood, and felt compelled to travel back to England, where I'd lived until the age of 10. I feared no happy memories awaited my pilgrimage. I felt particularly drawn to visit the old farmhouse, where circumstances had forced my family to live during World War II. My father had been a conscientious objector who refused to participate in the war. He and my mother were both artists, hippies of that era, with progressive and alternative concepts long before they were popular. My father was a political rebel. Since he wouldn't go to war, British law forced him to work on a farm for minimal pay. Just after I was born and the war was ending, my father left England for a job in Africa, where he died in a horrible accident. My mother was left alone with 3.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?